Hello there! Today we'll learn about freehand feathers, and Laura Heine demonstrates her specialty thread techniques. Plus, I tell you the best way to prepare a quilt top before long-arm quilting. Good to know if you're professional yourself or hiring one. So stay tuned.
Linda's Long-Arm Quilting is made possible by Gamble Quilting Machine Company, bringing quality, innovation, and service to quilters around the world for over a quarter of a century. By YLI, making decorative threads that help you unleash your imagination. By Statler Stitcher, providing automation to enhance and expand your long-arm quilting business. And by Hobbs Bonded Fibers.
We're going to see how to prepare a quilt top for long-arm quilting and work on some freehand feathers together. But first I want to share some beautiful and colorful quilts that I saw when I was in Houston at the International Quilt Festival. Take a look. Hi, we're here today at the International Quilt Market in Houston, Texas, and our guest is Laura Heine. She is a quilt artist and author and a fabric designer. How exciting! Welcome, Laura.
Thank you.
I know that you're a long-arm quilter, but you used to quilt on your machine at your home.
Yes.
Tell me about your long-arm quilting.
I bought my first long-arm machine about 3 years ago, and we did quilts for our customers at that time. Currently, I have 2 long-arm machines, and I teach classes on it. I travel all over the United States teaching, and I also let my students rent the machines.
So you're just kind of expanded from there.
Yes.
Found that you needed to do more of your quilts that way.
Exactly.
That's fantastic. So you have a shop.
Yes.
That's wonderful. And hire people to do it as well.
Yes.
That's terrific. And you've also written books, and now you're into fabric designing, which is just fabulous. We congratulate you on that success. Let's take a look at some of the beautiful quilts that you brought today.
Okay.
Let's look at the one that you're holding right now. And tell me about this quilt. What's the name of this one?
This is Turning Over a New Leaf, and this is an old pattern. It's actually my best-selling pattern. It's embellished with the jean stitch thread. It's fused applique, embellished with jean stitch, and quilted on the long arm. And then it was also trapuntoed, and after the quilting I added the black jean stitch stitching line to define the trapunto.
So the first stitching that you did on this applique is not through the entire quilt, it's just on the applique?
Yes, just on the applique when it was a top.
That's fantastic. And then you did the other quilting underneath. Is this fused on, or is this?
It's fused.
This is just wonderful, Laura.
Thank you.
I'm so excited about the Santa quilt that I saw. Can you tell me about that one?
Sure. I designed the Santas as a block of the month to teach in my shop. A friend of mine who is a stained glass artist actually designed all the Santas, and I did all the filler blocks.
Wow.
So each month the student learns a different technique as they complete the quilt, and at the end of the year we sew all the blocks together.
Well, it's an unusual, the color combination and everything is just gorgeous. And the quilting, I love this vine that you have through here.
Oh, thank you. That's one of my favorite feather designs.
It's fabulous.
Thank you.
And the dragonfly quilt, this is interesting. What's the name of this one?
It's called Glow Bug, and I designed that quilt as a how-to in my book Color Fusion. There's a lot of wonderful machine quilting on it, and it uses a lot of threads, the metallics, the machine quilting variegated threads.
And you can use all of those on your long arm machine?
Exactly.
Oh, that's wonderful. We're going to have you show us how to do that.
Okay.
And I noticed it also has some wonderful embellishments on it.
Yes.
So were those added by hand?
Yes, they were by hand.
Those were by hand. And let's take a look at your latest work, which is this wonderful, you could be Texas or Montana quilt here. Can you tell us about this one?
Sure. This quilt the inspiration came from my husband. I just recently got married, and he has a cattle ranch in Montana. And I acquired a pet cow, which is this block here. The number of my cow is 427 yellow. So it was kind of centered around the whole ranch, and this is also in a booklet format, but it's a block of the month, and it encompasses hand and machine work. It was quilted on the long arm. There's a lot of machine embellishing, and a lot of different threads were used on this
Can you
quilt.
tell me how long did it take you to do this quilt on your long arm machine? Do you have an idea?
I would guess around 8 hours.
Around 8 hours. That's phenomenal. And the quilting is just gorgeous. Is this handwork that you have out in the border?
Yes, it is.
That's such a good touch for that.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Laura, for showing us your quilts here at Quilt Market. We appreciate you being here and wish you continued success.
Thank you, Linda.
I enjoyed seeing Laura's quilts in Houston so much that I had to have her back to the studio with me so she could demonstrate some of her techniques with specialty thread. Thank you so much for coming to my studio, Laura, and I have always admired your colors and the way you've put things together. These quilts that you've brought are just blowing me away.
Oh, thank you, Linda, but they're actually not quilts, they're rugs.
They're not quilts, they're rugs.
No, these hanging here are actually rugs.
So this is actually a rug
Yes.
that you would walk on?
Yes. It's hard for some people to do, but you do walk on.
Oh, wow. Oh, a new thing. I'm excited about this to
Yeah.
see how you do this. I've been very interested in this. You know, the fabric is all inside of here. It's all gathered up and
That happens at the very end. We actually stitch on a canvas. And once you shrink the canvas, when you're completely done with the rug, it will bunch up.
bunches up. So this side, the very bottom, is a canvas.
Yes, it is.
So that's what you've loaded on here.
Yes.
Okay, and you're going to show us all about this, huh?
Yes. Okay, so like I said, we have a layer of canvas on the bottom, and then we have 5 different fabrics.
Now, I noticed you didn't pin this onto like we normally do, so this can
Right.
just hang over and that's okay?
Right.
Okay.
You want to make sure your selvages are all even up here, and you want to base the top.
All right.
So should I get started?
Ooh, yes.
Okay. The first thing I'm going to do,
No pattern?
no pattern.
Oh, wow.
This is all free motion quilting. The first thing I'm going to do is stitch a basic flower. And what I recommend my students to do is to just doodle. Doodle a lot, and they can trace my flower, and pretty soon you can do it on your own. So you want to bring up the bobbin thread.
Now, this thread looks heavier than the normal thread, so,
Yes, it is. This is actually jean stitch thread.
okay.
And I have a heavy polyester in the bobbin. Okay, so I'm going to stitch the center of my flower.
Oh, that's cute. It's not
And
a
then-
regular round center. I like
No,
that.
it's all, it's funky.
So doodling, okay.
Right, this is called a funky flower. So you can see how I'm making the petals.
So there's spaces in between the petals. I like that.
Yes,
I think I can do this, Laura. This is great.
sure you can.
I'll move that out
Thank
of the way.
you.
Yeah. Here we go.
Okay, so here's my basic flower, and I'm going to come out of that flower and I'm going to do a leaf shape.
And that's just like Just like a
Just a
leafy
basic
seed.
leaf.
Okay.
Okay.
And you put a little vein inside of it?
Yes.
Okay.
Now I'm going to move that away. Bring up my bobbin thread. Go ahead and cut that off. Thank you. Now the fun part of this whole technique is cutting away to get down to the layers that your flower is actually going to be.
Do you do that now, or do you do that? You have to finish the whole thing first? Or?
You don't have to finish the whole thing. You can do it in steps like this. You should do your complete working area.
Okay.
You can cut it any time that you want, but you don't want to roll the quilt until you have your whole working area
Of course
completed.
I would cut it because I would be so excited to see the colors.
You can't wait to cut it. So to cut it, what you do is you just snip this first layer.
Okay.
You have to kind of have in your mind what layer is what.
Okay, so you'd want to know what the bottom layer was for sure.
Right.
So you didn't, okay.
Right, so I'm going to stitch around or cut around this petal, and it happens to be the orange layer is on top.
Oh, it's beautiful.
So this flower is going to be orange.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm cutting about, a 1/4 of an inch away from my stitching line.
And that just becomes the raw edge that
Right.
you can kind of
it
frays
just
a little
frays.
bit. Okay.
Now on the center of the flower, I'm going to cut down to the yellow layer.
So you might want to plan a little bit of what colors you want in your flowers when you get your
Yes.
fabric.
Yes.
This uses a lot of fabric, doesn't it?
It does. Yes. This particular rug has 5 layers of fabric in it, 2 yards each.
But it needs to be durable, so it needs to be
Yes.
that way. Yes.
So now I've cut down.
All these colors are gorgeous.
Actually, I believe this is the green layer. So let's cut down to the yellow. There we go, to the yellow.
Good sharp scissors are a must, I would
Yes.
think. Yes.
Okay, so there is my yellow center. Now the leaf I will cut down to the green layer.
Okay.
So when you go to choose your fabrics, you want to make sure that you have fabrics for leaves, fabrics for flowers, and also fabrics for a flower center. Now if you look at the rugs that I did behind me, not all of the petals in each flower may be red or, whatever the flower color is.
So whatever your mood is. Huh?
Right. And then if you accidentally clip through to the layer below,
That could
then
happen.
you're kind of stuck with that color.
But you can use plaids, it looks like, and all kinds of prints. And maybe you could use fabric that you, have had for a long time that you wouldn't want to use in a quilt now.
A good way to get rid of fabric that you don't know what else to do with. Yes.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's going to be
Thank you.
really pretty.
Now I want to show you one more thing. Before you actually wash the rug, you're going to have different flowers on there, somewhat like this. And you need to fill in the background area with some kind of quilting because you don't want too much of the background area. So I want to show you a fun feather that you can do to fill in. Okay, to do that feather, you do the stem first. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just filling in with this, what I call spiky fern feather. And notice how I'm bringing the leaves of that feather up to the edge of the flower because you don't want a whole lot of empty space left on your rug, because when you take it to the washing machine, if you have a lot of empty space, it doesn't pucker right. So get as much of it quilted as you possibly can.
Boy, I don't know if the viewers can see that variegated thread, but it is absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you.
So you just keep going. You do your
Yes.
flowers first, and then you just fill in with these ferns all around.
Yes.
And open them up. It's just so exciting. I also noticed that you had the binding was quite different. It's tell me how you do that.
A non-traditional.
Non-traditional.
Stitch down binding, exactly.
Okay.
It's bound just like you would a regular quilt with a mitered corner. But when I went to hand stitch it down, I wanted to use a real heavy thread, and make sure that I got it secured really well. So that's why you see my running stitches
It's going
back
to be
here.
so, yeah, durable for a rug.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to run out and get some fabric and make a rug for my bedroom, and I appreciate you coming so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
When a quilt top is handed off to a quilter, it should already be prepared. If you're handing off your own work, follow these steps for the best results and to avoid unnecessary charges. If you're a professional quilter, advise your customers to do this prep work or list how much you charge for providing these services. First of all, keep the top, the lining, and the batting separate. Don't pre-baste them together. Press and trim the seams on your quilt top. I find this particularly true on antique tops that may have been washed. There will be extra threads that you will need to trim. Seam the back if necessary. Make sure that the lining is longer and wider than the quilt top. I suggest 8 inches to give your quilter lots of extra. Be sure that there are no weak spots in the piecing, again, particularly if it is hand-pieced. Discuss what feeling the quilting should lend to the quilt. If you don't have any ideas about that, ask for quilting ideas and be open to the suggestions from your quilter. She's seen a lot of quilts. Ideally, these items should be listed as instructions or optional charges on a work order that the piecer and the quilter fill out together at the start of the process. We talk more about work orders and the best way to approach them in another episode. I'm so excited to show you an advanced technique using feathers. Once you get your basic feather down, then you can do some of these specialty feathers. I have constructed a little wall hanging and I already have the vase in there. And I'm going to come down and finish the other side of this framing this little wall hanging with feathers. And I'm doing this to show you that feathers don't all have to be the same size. I can make some long and some shorter ones. So I'm going to vary the size of these feathers as they come out. Even the last one can just be laying in there like that. Let that needle come up, move it over, go down and bring up my thread. Now I'm going to bring some feathers out of this vase. And the first one that I'm going to do is a teardrop feather. So it's going to come out like this and round, and I'm going to do the teardrops in it as I do it. So it's going to appear to just be dripping out of the vase. And as always, once I do one side, I'm going to come down with a double stem and come back with on the other side doing the same thing. Now, when I'm at this point, I'm going to come up and do a curly feather. A nice teardrop shape, and then a curl that curls up toward the top, and it takes a little bit of a place on the stem. It doesn't just come up between the feathers, it has a little place on the stem. I love this feather. Adds a little bit to the regular feather. You can see that it's a little different. And putting those curls in, it makes it a very little happy feather. Then I'm going to come right out from there and do what I call a berry feather fern. So I'm putting some ferns in and some feathers. And I'll even come out with some little berries, circle, stem, a little curl, circle, stem on the way back. And then I'll cradle that with the fern and back to the feather, like that. And then of course back up to the top to do the other side. That double stem on the feather makes it look real. It looks like there's some life in that feather. Otherwise there's no way to get nourishment. Now I'm going to come out to the side here and drip another feather off. This one I call finger feather. And as you come out to the end, you make a circle and then come back. I love using this one on pieces that have fish in them. It almost looks like a coral. And it's really fun to do. You try to see how round you can get those. And of course I could come out with a little tendril like that, a little curl. All right, and that pretty well completes the vase. Now I'd like to put a little bird in there because in reality, the quilting that we do is a lot on applique, and there are a lot of applique flowers. And so it's fun to do a little bird. And they're not hard, it's just a matter of thinking what we know about birds. First of all, we know they have wings, and they have feathers on their wings, and they have tails. There's the other wing, and then I'm going to come straight out and back and make a little head like that. Now I could go over that a couple of times if I wanted to, make it look like an embroidery work. And in fact, it'd probably be a good idea to come down here and just make a little eye, and maybe go over it a couple of times, just to make sure he's there. He might be there hovering over a flower, or if you made a longer beak, it could be like a hummingbird. So there we have a little wall hanging with its feathered flowers and a little bird. And so quickly and easily done, but just some different variations of feathers. So don't get stuck in the same old rut with your feathers. Next time on Linda's Longarm Quilting, we see that all quilts are not created equal. Some are trickier to quilt than others with wavy or uneven borders. We'll look at tricks and tips for handling problem quilts. An award-winning quilter, Carol Selepik, stops by to share some of her secrets. Then I'll tell you about the best way for professional quilters and potential customers to find each other: advertising. Remember, if I can do it, you can do it. See you next time.
For more information, visit us on the web at www.lindaslongarmquilting.com.
When I was in Houston at this year's at the year's Okay. All right.
Linda's Longarm Quilting is made possible by Gamel Quilting Machine Company, bringing quality, innovation, and service to quilters around the world for over a quarter of a century. By YLI, making decorative threads that help you unleash your imagination. By Statler Stitcher, providing automation to enhance and expand your long-arm quilting business. And by Hobbs Bonded Fibers,